What's up, everybody? I want to talk to you about the fascinating situation with eFootball, a game where you can do so many cool things in a game that can create so much great football based on everything they have, all the abilities you have in the game, the movement, the runs, the AI, the animations. It is all there to create great football. However, what you get when you dive into the game and you play other players based on several things that I'll talk about is a terrible football experience full of exploits covered as tactics. They'll call them tactics, but they're exploits, and you'll see what I'm saying. And it's centered around a few things, right? Because a game at its core can be a great game. And as you're learning the game, there's this crazy thing where you're seeing all these cool things that can be done. You start out playing the AI, not another player in eFootball, so you can learn all these cool things and start to love the game. And then you finally get to the point where you've learned enough and they feel you're ready. So around Division 6, you start playing opponents, and right off the bat, it starts. Every formation you see is similar to this one in the background. Every once in a while, you'll see some wingers, but it was pretty much like that initial formation with straight up and down, no width, and you're going, well, what's that all about? Then you see quick counter. That is a play style that starts off all the nonsense because it's equivalent to like a constant pressure in FC, except for it's used as an actual tactic by pretty much a vast majority, let's just say that, a vast majority of the players. It is the meta in eFootball. You add to that the fact that they have a pressure button, so your player literally locks onto the player with the ball and runs like a speeding bullet at the player when you hold the X button. They call it the pressure button. And then you can hold R1 and get the AI assistance, and that AI player will run at the player as fast as can be as well, on top of quick counter being a play style where your players run at the player with the ball as well to try to get it back, okay? So take all of that together, combine it with these formations that are meant to maximize the use of this play style, and you can get some pretty ugly football. So all of that cool stuff that you learned, all those abilities that this game, enables you to have, are thrown out the window. It doesn't matter. And it leaves you in this wild spot scratching your head because you just seen how good the game can be. You learned all these things as you were going, and now when you get to the part that's supposed to be fun playing against other players, it's all nonsense because you get football where two players are running at each other as fast as they can. Either player can really have space to do anything. Either player can barely get a pass off, much less a shot. And so I wanted to start you off with this. You're watching the number one and number two, the two best players in the world play. I'm going to say the name wrong, but it's something along the lines of Jinsu. I believe he's a Japanese fellow. It could be another country in Asia, so I apologize if I'm wrong. But the best in the world. A long-standing, like the Anders Vergang, if you know FC, you know he is a once-in-a-generation talent. That's how this Jinsu is, if I'm saying it right. Again, if I'm wrong, you guys know who I'm talking about, though. The point is, you're watching the two best players in the world right here, number one and number two. And what they are able to do is actually create some good football. So either A, they aren't using quick counter, I wasn't able to tell, or B, they are and they just are so good that they can actually make the game look good despite quick counter, right? But there's good passes in here, there's good spacing, there's a lot of good stuff. It's entertaining to watch, and you can actually see how awesome the game can be. Not to mention, if you learn the basics of eFootball and you know kind of how hard it is to do different things, then you can really appreciate what they're able to manipulate these players to do. It's no different. Again, a lot of players come from FC, so I'll say it's no different than like watching a Tex and how he's able to get the players to move in FIFA, now called FC. But he's been doing it for years, and it's so cool to watch because you know how hard it is to do. It's the same with this. You're watching these players in real life make these teams, make these players on the pitch do some incredible things that are so hard on the sticks. So I wanted to show you this because how awesome would it be if every game was like this? How awesome would it be? Even not saying like all the crazy stuff they do because they're the top of the top. There's some pros that couldn't even make the game look like this, and you're going to see that here shortly. But I just wanted to give you a glimpse of what my mindset was going in at a much lower level, but with the spacing, the movement, the passing. That was my mindset as I was learning the game and really going, wow, I was missing out all these years, man. I can't believe people say this game is bad. I love this game. I can't wait. And I was all over it. I couldn't wait to get up and start playing other players and creating awesome goals, awesome passing sequences, which is the thing I love the most about what you're capable of doing in eFootball, right? So, how come then Konami put in this quick counter and these pressure tactics in this AI ran defense, right? Where half the time you see the ball's being won by the AI, not you. And that's where you come to this game. This is closer to what every game looks like. And think about it. The vast majority of players are not number 10 and number 3 in the world, which is what you're watching right now. No, that is not a joke. This is literally number 10 versus number 3 in the world. And you'll see why I said that's not a joke shortly. This is what you pretty much get game in and game out from, I'd say, about Division 5, maybe 4 and up. Definitely Division 3 and up with the way their system works. And every team you play has no width. They're all smashed players right up and down the center of the field. And every single team you play has quick counter and is coming at you full speed from the start to finish, to where you're lucky if you get a pass off, much less a shot. Okay? Now, even if you do, though, and you score 1, 2, 3 goals, you better believe your opponent is going to put so much pressure on you that they're going to get their chances too, many times not even from passes that they created. Okay? So as you watch number 10 and number 3 in the world, one thing I'll say is, even though it's pretty ugly, as you'll see, that's the pretty much what you're seeing now is the one time, or out of probably a few times, that the ball goes out wide, right? For the most part, it's all these players smashed up and down the middle, and they're pretty much passing back and forth to each other, right? Because there's no room, because right when a player receives the ball, there's players right on them. They can't even do anything. So if you're watching this and this is number 10 and number 3 in the world and the game looks like this, imagine what a vast majority of the player base, what their games look like. And then try to tie that to the fact that all the way through the learning process from Division 10 and 7 through 7, let's say, you are learning these amazing passing sequences, these amazing commands that can do these awesome things. And they truly are amazing when you look at other football games. Like Konami knew what they were doing and created a beautiful game. They had all the details covered. Like the different types of 1-2s you can do, not just vertical, but horizontal as well, right? All the different animations that these players have to make them similar to their real life counterparts, right? When Salah scores, it looks like a Salah goal. When Holland scores, it looks like a Holland goal. When, Ruud Gullit scores or defends, it looks like it's Ruud Gullit. Like, they did incredible. So all of these things combined with, like I said, the commands, the mechanics, the ability to create these beautiful passing sequences, they had a gold mine at their hands, like in their hands, and they just decided, in my opinion, with quick counter and these pressure buttons that they added for defense, they decided to literally just open up their hands and let it just fall off a cliff. Because this football that you're seeing here is not the football that the game is capable of producing. And if this is number 10 and number 3, and this is what you have to look forward to, then you kind of get to the point where it's like, well, that's disappointing. Why would I waste my time with this? I mean, we are barely seeing... Actually, we haven't seen a shot. You correct me if I'm wrong. I'd have to rewind it. But I'm pretty sure we haven't seen one shot yet. And we'll end up seeing some goals so you kind of see how they're created and stuff like that. But I just wanted to show you this because it is crazy that, when you watch the top players in the world in other games, I don't just want to talk about FC, but any other game. And since FC is a football game, I have to say, in FC, you're getting shots on goal. You're getting plays in and around the box. Connected passes, more than 1 or 2. You're not getting players just kicking the ball at each other while players are running at each other as fast as they can. And the gameplay has been pretty awful in the past with FC. I know this patch has changed a lot, but even with that, I watch all these World Championships because I play in the FC Pro Open, the FC Pro Ladders, things like that. And even at that level, the game is somewhat, similar to what a football game should look like. It is not just back and forth through the middle of the field, no width, not being able to connect 2 and 3 passes, right? It's nowhere near like a Texan and Vergang, but just in the sense of what you're able to create, not in the sense of, not being able to connect passes, not being able to even get shots off. As you see the first goal there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that was a pretty ugly goal. I mean, that was kind of bouncing off players back and forth until it finally opened up in the box so a player could just hit shoot instead of pass, and they scored. And that's a lot of times how you'll give up goals in this game too. You will play opponents that have their badges and you can see they've been playing for a while. I'm a brand new player. Like, if you look at the time I've played, probably 3 weeks of playing the game seriously, and I'll play players that have back to badges way back in Division 1, Division 2, top. I played the number 2 in the world at one time. And it's all the same up and down the middle, right? Constantly trying to make passes, constantly making bad passes, not really having any type of good football at all. And then eventually they'll just get it down towards your end where you intercept the ball or you try to make a pass out of pressure and they'll steal it and shoot and score, right? It's not kind of like that goal you just saw there. Not any type of beautiful football, not anything that you saw in the lead up when you were learning, right, before you started playing other users on the game. So it's just the insane part that if this is all the game was able to create, like a UFL right now is in the gutter, but they've always had kind of those glitchy issues, and now they just have more exploits than ever. However, they never had a game that created beautiful football. It's always kind of simplified, and the best thing and what made it fun in its release was the spacing, the ability to play different formations, right? It was a very fun, simplified version of football. eFootball does have the ability. They have all the details. Even though it may be complicated to learn at first, it's well worth it when you look at the football you could create. That's the initial impression you get until you start seeing that everybody uses quick counter and these pressure buttons. And once you get into an actual game, none of that stuff that's, available to be used in the game is used, because you quite literally don't have time to utilize it. You're just trying to get the ball off your player's foot. And even in those games where you are able to move quicker than your opponent and start passing it around and getting it off your foot, the spacing is so messed up because of these formations that it still takes away from all the beauty that this game is able to create. So the obvious solution would be take away quick counter. Take away that X pressure button, or at the very least tone it down. Tone down the AI assistance, right? Similar to FC has done that before and did it in this last big patch, and it worked wonders. However, you have to remember, Konami put quick counter in for some reason. And as I slow this game down, which I do, to see any of my mistakes, see kind of how different formations work, how different setups, tactics, all that work, I see that maybe Konami added it in as a way for lower skilled players to try to defend better. Like they were getting sliced apart by all the different things that you could do on the attack, so they needed to make a way for the lower level players to defend so they wouldn't leave the game. And then in the process, it ended up being a play style that everybody ended up using because they could abuse it. And now what you have is this monster of a play style that totally ruined the game, creating this bunch football, this rush and steal the ball, ping pong at each other nonsense that you see. Now, because of what this game is capable of, I truly hope they can fix it by removing quick counter or really revamping it and toning it down, toning down that pressure button, toning down the AI assistance and the AI altogether. Who knows if they will, because I know they make a ton of money off of players spinning for all these different legends they release. And therefore, who knows if this game will ever truly be saved. They might just be satisfied with the money they're making. But you can only hope, because even me, with knowing how this game can be played versus how it is being played now, and knowing I'm going to run into this vast majority of games, I still have this desire to play because of what can be created with the goals, the passing sequences, just everything. There's still that allure there. So just imagine if this nonsense was removed, how awesome it would be. However, you also have to remember this, just like with FC25 and their big patch. If the player base really wants this stuff to be removed and they stop spinning and they start really making their voices heard, Konami will have to listen because they don't want to lose money. So I guess we'll see.